Thursday, December 11th, 2025. This is the first meeting of the 2026 Birch Incorporation Association Steering Committee. I'll start with roll call. Michael Rutkowski. Here. Lisa Guthrie. Here. Michael Spring. Here. Pauline Nessie. I just saw her pop up online. How do I get to this? Yeah, that. What? Yeah, please get this. Get her to speak up again. Pauline will be rejoining the webinar as a panelist. Pauline, are you here?
Mike's off.
There she is. All right. Jason Polverari told me he wasn't going to be able to make it. Matt Berry, I'm here. Jan Barnes is not going to be able to make it, unfortunately.
Not too bad.
Patrick Allisey.
Here.
Jonathan Mallahan had a work conflict. Chuck Kinzer.
Here.
Yorkson Jean.
Here.
Charmin Burnham.
Here.
Carolyn Sherwin. Not here, but maybe she'll show up. And then Hawken Stephen. I see you online.
Hey, yep, I'm here.
Hey, thank you. And Jeff Brent.
I'm here.
Alrighty. So we have another forum. Did it again. Minutes. I believe you sent them out. I've already printed them up here.
Yep.
Had a chance to review them. If not, they're in front of you.
Lisa would move to the minutes.
Seconded. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes from the November AGM, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Did we get votes from the web, from the Zoom?
Yay or nay on Zoom? You can use thumbs up too if you like. Any nays?
Yeah.
Thanks, Hawken. All right, motion carries. All right, before we really get into it, we've got a couple of objectives for this meeting. First, we have to elect new officers. The steering committee. We also have the feasibility study, which was published, and open session. Are we okay with the order of operations here?
We're going to do an open session.
Open session and then elections / discussions. Okay. Is there anyone online? Well, let's start with in person. Would any of you like to speak to the group? No. There's Carolyn. All right, and don't hesitate if later in the meeting, if you have a question or comment or you want to add something, don't hesitate. It's not we run a little bit of a there are 6 people online. One of them is Bob Jean, who will save some time for once we get to the feasibility study. But Barbara or Jim or Pauline or Hawken, was there anything you'd like to add during open session? You're welcome to raise your hand. I'm not seeing any raised hands. So we'll move along, but don't hesitate if something comes up during the session. All right, election of officers. I printed, thanks Michael for helping consolidate all this, but there's some copies of the back. We have the bylaws. And then the steering committee officers and duties. And on the back side, we've got BBIA working committee description. So I figured we'd just go through this pretty quick. Bylaws we should all be pretty familiar with. Steering committee officers and duties. So we have the chair shall serve as the chair of the executive committee, be responsible for the operation of BBIA and its officers pursuant to the bylaws, prepare agendas, preside at meetings, serve as the primary liaison with the County State Band Review Board, act as a signature on checks and records, and serve as a member of all working committees. Vice chair shall assist the chair in planning and conducting meetings, schedule meeting facilities, assume the duties of chair when chair isn't available, perform other duties assigned by the steering committee, and serve on the executive committee. The secretary maintain written records and files for the BBIA, maintain a membership list, prepare sign-in sheets for each meeting, records of meeting attendance, prepare minutes, provide records for paper or electronic publications as directed by the steering committee, and serve on the executive committee. And the treasurer shall serve as chair of the finance committee, prepare a budget for the BBIA, maintain all records for the BBIA, collect monies, act as a signature on debts and bank records, maintain accounting of all expenditures, and then present financial reports and provide financial records. So there's lots of responsibilities there, but any questions, thoughts? On that? How should we do this? Should we start with chair?
Usually the best place to start, and just to clarify, the voting is only by steering committee, elected steering committee members, it's not open to the public.
Are there any nominations for chair?
How about Matt Berry?
Yeah, I nominate that. I was gonna say, he's not gonna like.
He's in a hot seat,
to,
leave him there.
Make that nomination as well. Lisa will second.
My
Discussion, yes.
yeah, discussion. I can't make my nomination contingent on things, but I would withdraw my nomination if we're not gonna be trying to get a vote to happen in 2026. I've been working on this for over 2 years now. And I'm ready to move forward or not. It is a lot of work, and you do get some flack, you know?
I do have really good hearing aids, but I didn't quite hear everything you said. So back up.
Basically, I wouldn't chair this thing if our goal wasn't to put forth a notice of intent to incorporate it.
Yeah.
And it ties into the feasibility study discussion too. So I don't know how we want to approach that.
I guess the question is, do we think that we're gonna get to a point today where we make that determination? And if not,
I don't think it have to happen today.
no. And I think for me, you brought us here, and I know you've changed a number of things about your life to do this. And that's a big price to pay. So I'd understand, but I also think that in my mind, we have the right person.
I don't want to be a quitter, but
That can happen at any time.
is there anybody else who wants to do this?
My only question to you is if we move towards November of 2026 and we realize halfway through it's not going to happen, will you continue on so we can finish it off?
What do you mean?
If we do decide that we're moving on, it's a process. And we can say it can be November 2026. That doesn't mean everything falls into place and the planning committee and the Whatcom County Council and all the things that we have to do falls under what we want as a guideline based on usually how long it takes. So my question would be, are you open to, if we move forward towards that and we see that it's not going to come together for November, probably November of 27, would you continue?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
I mean, there is a way to do this using Robert's Rules of Order. You can't condition cannot make a motion while presiding, and you can't condition acceptance of a nomination on the motion. But that's how I feel.
I think it's fair enough to know your feelings, but we've got a lot of road to cover. There's another election in November
Yeah,
of 26, whether it's on the ballot or just election for BBIA. So
Mhm.
it's a lot of time to figure those things out. So unless there's no further nominations, can we railroad them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
You can decline. I mean, that's the,
what to do.
Matt, I think it's fine for you to do it now because in our discussion to come and after the formal presentation of the feasibility report and all of that, I mean, we may even, have to change the committee name and do various things. So at that time, we may formally disband the BIA
I
and
guess-
formally create another one. So, I think you can defer that decision.
In fact, I mean, in fact, the more I think about it, the more I think that's a strong possibility, so.
Yeah.
Somebody wanna call for the vote?
No, all right.
I'll call for the vote.
But he's gotta decide if he's gonna decline first.
No.
No, I'll accept, but. There is a way where I can. Ask you to chair and make a motion and then do that. I would rather just at the meeting in January, we're gonna be deciding whether or not we're gonna proceed with the notice of to incorporate. That's gonna be on the agenda there. And I expect somebody to make that motion if I don't chair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I'll accept the nomination.
Call for the vote.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Vice Chair. Any nominations for Vice Chair?
Oh, I nominate.
Lisa, yeah.
I don't want to lose my vice chair.
I say we can just maybe pivot on. I could be secretary or treasurer. No.
Do you accept the nomination?
Yeah.
Are there any other nominees for Vice Chair? You nominate yourself too. Raise your hand online if you'd like to. All right. Call for a vote. All in favor of electing Lisa as Vice Chair, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Yeah.
Can I get, who seconded?
We didn't, it was just
I
a
did.
nomination, or did
It's a
you?
nomination, you
Okay.
need a
Okay.
second. Thank you.
All right, how about for Secretary?
I nominate Mike. Yeah.
I second.
Yeah.
Are you up for that?
Well, no.
Awesome job, Michael.
Yeah.
Nobody else wants it.
Nobody else. Well, that's basically it.
Don't look at me.
It is.
Take one for the team. Unless there is somebody else.
Sure. All right, any other nominations for Secretary? We'll vote, all in favor of, electing Michael to the Secretary position again, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, congratulations.
One abstention.
One of us.
Can I get the nomination again? So I know who to blame. The seconder.
Your friends.
Your friends in this under too.
We have treasurers, another difficult job.
Yeah, Lisa will nominate Charmin.
I'll second.
All right, are there any other nominations for Secretary or for Treasurer? All right, seeing none, all in favor of electing Charmin to treasurer again?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, seeing none. We've done it again.
Yay.
All right. Bob Jean, the gentleman who has experience with starting new cities, is online. I figured I'd bring him in here, but we can get his opinion, but first I want to get the committee's opinion on the feasibility study results that were published or. Sure.
It's not in our favor. It was very one-sided.
The study was published to the county's website. Study was published to the county's website last night. I can pull it up if people haven't had a chance to look at it, or we need to go zoom in on anything. But I just want to open it up. Thoughts?
You can tell who paid for it because it is very centered towards the county and Blaine.
Wait till it snows and we can't shovel the streets. The county's running out of money. And they've been happy to have us. Remember I told a story about this kid who was 35 and he was trying to figure out how to leave home. And his parents were gonna help him figure out his finances. But he couldn't quite leave because they wanted his money.
So I haven't read the entire document, and what hit which will hit everybody else is exhibit 1. That shows a lot of red ink. And just looking at it very personally, it's the public safety police department that kills it, and I haven't looked further down into the report to see how many thousands of police officers that.
But they included a lot of police. It doesn't necessarily say
So-
we're gonna need a sergeant and this
Right,
and
right.
and
And
a
that's
this
the
and
point.
that, and that there's a lot of lane built into that. And we've got one now, so
Yeah.
we maybe want 3.
So, my reaction is just looking at the first table, it's disappointing. I think it's been couched that way. But I don't think it determines whether it's
Mhm.
feasible.
And I will mention one thing from the report. From a residential taxation, I think Birch Bay ranked 4th
Yeah.
of the city. We ranked last in terms of retail tax collection. And that was another interesting, right, ranking that came out of the report.
And one thing I noticed about that though, is I believe for the retail sales, they did not use actual data, but rather a formula for
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
Yep, so curious as to where that number really is, but I think that goes into, I have not digested the entire report yet myself either, so.
I think, unless we can show that there are actual factual errors or errors in assumptions, that's the only argument that I think is a logical one to make. So by assumptions, we don't need 6 police officers and sergeants, perhaps, so maybe we need 3 and no sergeants. There are different ways to parse that. And there is enough information in there in terms of what it costs per police officer, I think, so we could have the,
Yep.
research committee take a look at that and bump it down and see if that's feasible. So unless there are actual errors in terms of what they've done, or unless we change the assumptions, that's the only way to really go about it, I think.
The
other-
I agree.
The problematic thing with it is our baseline has always been, if everything stays the same, services stay the same, and we get money back from the county, do we get the same level of service or even a little bit more? Right. So if we don't, if everything stays the same and it costs more, that implies raising revenue, maybe through taxes. If we want even more than that, if we want even 2 police instead of 1, that means we have to raise it even above the baseline. I don't really see that as a problem. It depends how you want to present it to the community.
Mhm.
If you present it to the community as, are you willing to pay more for this? That's still a potentially winning argument. And so I went back and I looked at the survey that we did, a year and a half ago. And 60% of the people, in answer to that question I had in there about if services went up, would you be willing to pay 100 more, 200 more, 300, 400 more? 60% of the respondents said that they would be willing to pay between 100 and 400 more if services increased. So, it could be a way to make that argument. But in terms of this actual report, I didn't see anything that was factually wrong. Some of the assumptions may not match what we wanted, but I don't think it's a factually incorrect report.
Good point. Well, it's also philosophically, feasibility is the sole figure of merit running a deficit as a municipality, because that would be like 90% of all the municipalities that I know about in the world.
My question is, who do they talk to?
Well,
They talk to Blaine, Whatcom County, and that's it. What has Blaine got to do with it?
Well, they also took data from a lot of different reports within Washington and other cities to make their
Mhm.
assumptions. I mean, again, I don't think that there's any actual incorrectness in the report.
In the report, though, it just in the, not in the executive summary, but based on what you were saying, Chuck, too, the way the first feasibility study from 2008 read that at the same taxing levels, we could enjoy a slightly higher level of service.
Right.
This says in the statement, under feasibility, it says using under the same cost framework, expenditures are estimated to exceed revenues.
Right.
But we don't see that line item report here because our one officer doesn't cost $2.5 million, which is the line for public safety. So are those numbers somewhere else in the report that I just haven't gotten to yet? Where it is if we say to have what we have now.
Right. Yeah, I think that was one of the questions I noted down. If there's time to ask any questions in a 1 hour presentation by the
Yeah.
group,
Yeah,
you know.
right, but, yeah.
So,
But
you know,
yeah,
that's
I
another
just
thing.
don't see that.
Because when I was looking through it, they said that the assumptions were based on the low police, count, which it was 6 officers plus support staff.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily what we want, but even if that's the case, that's not, I mean, the question would be, it's not a 1-to-1. I mean, that's not what we have now, right?
Right.
So
Right,
if
that's
we
I
go
guess my
with-
point.
Yeah, if we go with exactly what we have now, does it still work? But there's still a $2 million difference. But if you look at the data that came out on the low and high police spreadsheets,
Mhm.
it's about the same. The low one is a deficit of around $2 million, I think. So
Low police and current taxes.
yeah,
I think it was, well, in the
Yeah.
report, it's much greater than it was in the draft.
Right.
Methodologies, which what I guess irks me is they had 4 different approaches to it. They picked the worst one to put on page 5 and
Yeah.
then buried the other options in page 52.
right.
So I think this is useful for a couple of reasons, mostly on the revenue side of things. Like I look at real estate excise tax, we were pretty accurate. Holly did an amazing job of,
Mhm.
yeah, she got us within, I think, $100,000 of
Mhm.
what they did there. Lodging tax exceeded what we thought, so 340,000. Real estate excise tax could have paid for the beach park multiple times over by now if it would have stayed here. Lodging tax is twice what the Chamber of Commerce gets.
Mhm.
You look at property taxes, we were pretty accurate in that respect. But I think some of the revenues are good. The sales tax, I think, is wildly conservative. But I think they just designed a city the way Whatcom County would design a city. Which I don't think I don't think this tells us much besides Birch Bay is a net positive revenue generator for the county and they don't want to lose us.
Mhm.
My other thought was property taxes. Our property tax valuation, according to their assumptions. Where is it here? Total taxable value of Birch Bay, 2.5 billion. We can lower everybody's taxes if we want to include BP.
We can never include people
Why not?
because Ferndale would never allow it.
I went through that. I included BP because people were complaining, oh, we don't have enough money. But,
So I think in that regard,
That's what I was told.
the retail,
Where does it go then?
It goes to Blaine School District.
no, it's okay.
yeah, I wouldn't go there. I think the more critical issue is do they think that within 5 years we won't have retail, up on Blaine Road and Birch Bay Linden?
Well,
So it is a very pessimistic, low-balling retail sales tax.
well,
I'm not sure how they did the quote Amazon tax because I haven't looked at
That's
it
right.
in detail, but you know, if you look at the average income in this area and the average property value in this area, I'm sorry, it really looks like retail sales taxes have been lowballed. I haven't read it, so I really don't know. I need to look at what their highs and lows are, and I just would advise caution on this.
Mhm.
Don't be deflated by it. It's as you said, it's sort of the worst cases on the front page, and the possibilities are further back. I haven't read it further back.
Well, they talk about other taxes, but I'd love to know what that breakdown is. You talk about sales taxes. I said this many times. You go to the revenue, you draw the line. And they come up with a figure that's generated by sales taxes. It might be somebody working on your house, something like that, or something you can get from Amazon. I'd love to see that.
I again haven't looked at it all.
Yeah.
The exhibit one, the building permits, planning and engineering fees looks low to me.
Mhm.
The soundbite that we haven't published yet says that Blaine alone has 475,000 a year in permits. Ferndale has 1.2 million. So are we somewhere in between? It certainly doesn't look to me like 512. So I don't know
Mhm.
until we start looking more detail and see how that pans out.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting where they talked about the lodging tax when you said it was twice as much. They gave us a whole paragraph on how we cannot use it. Did you read that? Do not, Birch Bay must know they cannot put it in a general fund. They
I
have
know,
to-
it was sort of
You
like,
know, it was like, oh, why, which I thought was very strange, but I agree with what you're saying as far as going through it and saying, okay, there's a guideline, so let's look at us and see what it is that we would think would be how we want our city to look, and then work those numbers, because the public's gonna wanna know.
We
Yeah,
put on,
I think that, I'm sorry, go.
I was just gonna say, we published on two sound bites this year. City councils determine the level of property tax and what services are provided.
Mhm.
Well, I'm going to pick up on something that Jeff mentioned actually, last meeting, roughly, I think, and that's the difference between feasibility and desirability. I mean, you may want to talk more about that, but basically, I mean, lots of things are feasible, I mean, this has always been feasible. It just depends what you want. We've said that over and over. It's all feasible for us to pick up and move to Mexico, but we may not want to do that.
We may.
So we may.
But our leadership is a good place.
So I don't know. I don't think that we're going to win an argument with the community by arguing against this report, because we've too often said, I mean, first of all, we invested too much by saying this 18-year-old report says that it's going to be okay because we could get a little bit more, kind of ignoring the fact that so many parameters have changed. I mean, inflation is higher than what that report was. There are other taxes, the population building costs are higher, wages are higher than what they anticipated. So we're kind of tied to that, but that doesn't matter. But we are tied to the fact that we kept saying over and over again that we're not going to make a decision until the feasibility report comes out. And it's a third-party feasibility report, and we really want it. And we're so happy that, the county gave us money for it. And for us to come out now and argue that the report is incorrect,
Mhm.
And nitpick it to death is going to
Yeah.
make us sound really bad.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think we just have to argue on the basis of, here's what it would cost for these kinds of services. And if you want them, then here's what you'll have to pay for it. And if you're willing to do that, then let's go for it, And I think we could win that argument if we present it in terms of a desirability thing instead of a feasibility
Yeah.
thing.
That's what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My question on that is, with the present system we have right now, with one stinking police officer that's here only about 10% of the time.
Yeah, right.
What can be worse?
Yeah.
Zero?
That's right.
I mean, that's a dumb question
But there are
because
lots of other things too, I mean, again, I go back to that survey that we did. There was overwhelming support for making our own decisions in terms of zoning, and other things. And so, I think we could sell it. But I think we have to be very careful about arguing against the report.
Especially now that was a draft and it hasn't officially been,
I don't know if it's a
Public.
draft.
it
It
says,
says it's draft.
it says
Says
draft.
it's a draft.
Yeah.
But
Is that?
On the link says it's draft.
Okay.
So,
But that usually means final,
Final, right.
unless you can identify some
Yeah.
really outrageous error, then it usually is final.
but Whatcom County has not come out and said, here is the feasibility study.
No,
Right, and so I
Technically,
think
it's
that's
not
it,
been done.
right,
Yeah.
so, anyway, I'd be very interested to hear what
Yeah,
Mr. Jean has.
I wanted to bring, I
let
wanted
me-
to bring Bob in.
Let me just say one more
Yeah.
thing, and if as it is labeled a draft, and the presentation isn't until the 17th, I mean, would it make sense for us to ask for a modification based on some other assumptions they could insert into the final report?
yeah,
That is not in front of the general public,
Yeah.
but, going back to them and saying, we've looked at your draft, we think this would be more helpful.
Mhm.
Can you give us that too? They can say no, but I mean, we
And I'd
should,
like to have the taxes broken down.
but we'd have to do that before the 17th.
Yeah.
Yeah,
David, his question.
Yeah, I disagree with Chuck regarding you can't argue against it, anybody else. I've been doing appraisals for 40 years, and one of the biggest rules is you're supposed to get your information from a disinterested third party, not rely on the homeowner, somebody else. Is Blaine a disinterested third party?
no,
no,
Is the county a disinterested? third
No.
party? They get derived, so I think we can argue against some things, particularly if we can find factual errors in it. I know we hung our hat on, wait till this comes out of show where, same taxes, higher, services are equal. But when this thing comes, this thing's worth looking into. Every week I get people or banks, reviewers, homeowners sending a thing wanting me to explain, support my opinion. And that's what this report is. It's an opinion. It's not a mathematical certainty. It's their opinion. And if they, have things that are wrong in there, we need to speak out against it. Or look at it and cut the fat and then sell that approach to them. But I think the big thing here is taxes, that people don't want their taxes going up. I disagree with Chuck again on, I think we can win the higher taxes, more services thing. I think taxes are the number one thing, and we should stick with, we're gonna make this thing same amount of taxes and equal service, more police, whatever. But look, I think the margin's too thin to go. Higher taxes, more services, support us. I mean, I would tend to think we'd lose that one outright, regardless of the 60% for higher taxes thing, because that could be skewed by mostly people who wanted participating in the survey, which we know the people who don't want it, they're always, I never went in that survey. Anyways, that's my
Yeah.
2 cents.
All right.
I tend to agree that if there are significant factual errors in it, that we should call it out. And in cursory reviews of it, I look at these numbers that estimate 5.1 million of operating revenues for the first year. The city of Blaine currently has 7.5 million of operating revenues. Now, of that, a bigger chunk is retail sales tax, but that only accounts for 1.5 million. So it seems to me that probably somewhere in the order of 6 million is probably closer to revenue. I don't know where the factual error would be, but it's certainly worth taking a look at.
Let's turn it over to Bob for a little bit here. We're real lucky that Charmin. How did we meet him? It was, you called
calling
Liberty
Liberty Lake
Lake,
when they incorporated.
and they said, you gotta talk to Robert Jean. Bob has experience. He ran 2 cities after incorporation. I don't know of anybody at CAI who started a city, managed a city, but Bob, thank you for all of your guidance and expertise. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, technically, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, good. I was having trouble with my Zoom and I've been watching you, but I'm thinking, boy, I hope they can hear me when it's my time. I did appreciate the around the table comments. But I think the first early comment was probably the most salient, was you can see who paid for the study. I have worked in these are just some thoughts. And then Matt, did you get a chance to give the committee copies of my reaction report?
Yep, I just passed it.
All right, let me go into that in a minute. But by way of background, so you understand a little bit where I'm coming from, the other comment I heard was it's feasible. It just depends on how you want to match your tax level and service levels. And I've managed 2 cities in my career as the interim. One was Valdez, Alaska, where they have all the money from the oil pipeline. They've got a city of 5,000 people and a budget of 50 million a year. Okay. And then I managed the city of Gillette, Wyoming, which is up in the northeast corner of Wyoming, where they call the Powder River Basin. And they get 25, they have a city of 25,000 and a general sales tax from all the mining equipment that they sell, those big trucks or dump trucks and all the mining equipment, of 25 million. Now, by comparison, I managed the city of University Place and at 35,000 now, and our budget's about 20 million. But that's a multiple of like Blaine's for their population of 6 and all of that. So I've also managed cities that didn't have a lot of money, and where you essentially had in your budget exercise, you go through the revenues. What do I got to work with? And then you go through the expenses and figure out where your priorities are and how can you match those to the community's needs. I just got this report yesterday, the December report, and I spent all day today looking at it, and I wrote up my summary. And prior to that, I looked at the October 31 report, which we got in early November. And I spent a lot of time with that. In the October report, there were 4 scenarios. 2 of the scenarios were revenue positive. And one was about break even, frankly, and another wasn't feasible. They took the one that wasn't feasible and they made changes to it to make it even worse. I mean, I'm just speaking candidly to the committee and my opinion, having been a city manager for over 30 years, having managed 2 new cities and worked with 4 others. Liberty Lake was one you mentioned, Charmaine. It's about the size, they're about 7,000 when they incorporated, and Edgewood in my county, in Pierce County, which is about 6,000. So I've managed smaller cities with small budgets and larger cities with larger budgets. This mix here should fall in the middle, and they threw it out. And I don't know, I don't want to get publicly offended with CAI, but professionally, I'm a bit offended by what they did, in my opinion. And I'd be glad to share that with committee members individually. If you want to give me a phone call, Matt has my number. But let me give you, just reacting to what they did in this December 10th report, which was the worst scenario. The county road levy, which is all dedicated to police, I assume you all know that by now,
your levy rate combined is about 88 cents a thousand. And all of that is dedicated to police. You're right. The most significant variable on service levels is police, but you guys haven't picked it up yet. You haven't figured this out. I didn't hear any comments. You don't have one deputy. You have about 0.5, 0.6 deputy per shift, 24/7, 365.
Rounding up, they're rounding up.
And the proposal that they put in here was for 3 deputies on duty at any given time. And that was their 14 deputies. It takes 5.25 staffing positions to put one person on duty 360, 24/7. So when you have to be careful whether you're talking about total sworn deputies or patrol officers on duty. But you're currently at 0.5, 0.6. And yes, you should go up, but you don't need to go up to 3 on duty. We just have 3 on duty now in University Place, and we have great response times now, and about the same area. We're about 8 square miles, and 2 deputies on duty would give you, in my opinion, about a 5 to 15 minute emergency response time. That's excellent. And so you can split the dollars, you can reduce the dollars that they've, I believe, jacked up to make it not work, speaking candidly. But your police services budget can come down by about a third. Let me, if you've got a copy of I call it the reaction to the CAI report, is that?
Yeah.
You all have a copy there.
Pass it out.
It's not long, so I don't lose my train of thought and go off into the woods. Let me just read it to you quickly. I'll hit the high points. But this is my reaction to what I saw on the January report, which said, oh, this is an option and it's not feasible. And that's where the expenditures exceed revenues. Well, by the time you get to the end of my report there, you're going to see if I had to manage it, not be an analyst, be a CAI analytical person, but approaching this as a city manager.
Sorry.
The comments that I've got here are how I would work.
It's okay.
Okay. Okay, we already hit on a little bit of my background with cities. In summary, though, the first paragraph, what I would say is, and I can honestly say this, technically CAI is pretty good, and I would agree with about 80% of what they did. But I have 20% some serious disagreements, and I outline them in this paper. We mentioned the Birch study earlier. The Birch study found that you were feasible, and things have only gotten better. Yeah, inflation's up and that kind of stuff's up, but so are a lot of the related revenues. And you also have the growth in the tax base was much greater than Birch had projected, and CAI recognizes that. You've got the internet sales tax. It's really impossible to calculate it because the state Department of Revenue doesn't break it out that way. But a lot of the cities have been tracking before and after with the internet sales tax. And you guys have above average disposable income per household looking at Whatcom County communities. And you're going to have above average internet sales tax revenue. But you can't really bank on it, but I'm telling you, it's going to happen. And then the vacation rentals are also significant. And well, you know, these kinds of funds have different restrictions on them. There is some fungibility to it, and you can move things around, and overhead costs are allowed and those kinds of things. I already touched on this earlier, but the October CAI report had 4 scenarios, 2 of which were feasible. They had a higher tax. Now, let's not use words loosely. if you were to go from the 88 cents levy, which is the current county road tax levy, to $1.60, which is the limit on the state limit on cities when they don't provide the library, the fire, the other services. Your limit is $1.60. That would be about $30 a month. Now, somebody in the committee said, I think we could sell the argument of more service and more tax. A friend of mine that was in the development business one time said, oh yeah, my dog Spot could sell that lot. And $30 a month, if you had to go there, that's about what would give you a full range of flexibility. But even that, I'm not looking at it now. I'm saying stay with the 88 in this report. The third paragraph, I recognize CAI is a technical group, and they associated with another group that's also a planning group and a community relations group. But they never managed the city. They didn't, as far as I know, none of them talked to any of the 13 new cities. Predominantly they talked, I think, with Blaine, and they did some comparables with some other cities in the county. But you guys, that one chart they did, you're really not comparable in many ways. You're kind of a unique community, which is nice. All of the 13 new cities, and you touched on this in some of your comments going around the table. But if you think about it, all of the 13 new cities incorporated for 3 reasons. One is local control, and that's the least sexy and the most misunderstood, but it frankly is the most important. That's how you control your taxes. That's how you control your service levels. That's how you make local decisions about planning and zoning and all the things it means to be a city. So local control is no small deal. The second one is growth management. You guys are on the verge of, you've seen just in the last few years how growth can pick up. Now it's uneven, it comes and it goes, but you're definitely on the escalator side of growth heading up. And growth management, controlling your comp plan, not the county's comp plan, controlling your zoning, controlling your development regs, your code enforcement, all of that stuff through development and growth management is going to be huge. And public safety, we just talked about that a little bit. Their estimates on court costs, jail costs, all of that stuff was fine. And their unit costs on police was fine. But you don't need to go from 0.6 on duty to 3. It's overkill. And if you had a broader tax base in the future, you get more retail sales up on the plateau or something. Sure, you might have need for some more, but your calls for service and your call volumes right now, they don't justify it. And they don't really get into that. They should have. They should have interviewed the sheriff and talked about response times and call for service, but they didn't. The other thing that's kind of a subtle point, so there's local control, growth management, and public safety. But another subtle point is, what are you going to do for capital? And they really underplayed that. They did recognize the real estate excise tax, which is a huge number for your community. And that money could go for a lot of different things. Capital improvements on streets, sidewalks, parks, facilities that you may want. You know, if you become a city, you want to rent city hall space, or do you want to buy a city hall somewhere? Those are things that are startup costs, but they're not impossible. They're not out of the range. Getting to some numbers. And now that you have your own copy, you can kind of follow it a little bit easier. And I'd be glad to go through with any of your numbers people. I know Chuck and Jonathan are particularly good in the numbers area. But the most significant is at 2 police officers per shift at 5.25 to fill a position, you can save $725,000 and still have 5 to 15-minute response times. That's not a bad deal. The other thing is on Parks and Rec. Either you have a Park and Rec district or you don't. And I would take out the money that's in there, about 300,000, take it out. I would work with the Park and Rec district. I think the goal of the new city and one of the city manager's challenges really would be to work actively with each of the special districts and make them true partners with you in achieving your council goals. But there's 300,000 that's redundant. You either have a Park and Rec district or the city does it. But I would take that and put it against the deficit. The street fund, it gets a little fuzzy because they dump all your street fund revenues. I think they don't show them anywhere. So I'm assuming they're all going to the county as a part of the county contract for street services. You don't want to contract with the county for everything. They're good at some things, whether it's contracting out with the private sector for overlays, or maybe your county. When I was the county manager up in San Juan County, our county did chip seal overlays and crack seals, and they were really good. They were well done, and the crews were good at it. And so I'm not against contracting with the county for some things, but potholes, hey, somebody dumped a bunch of trash in the street. The county's response time on something like that's going to be terrible. I mentioned it to Matt, I would set up in Public Works basically a 3-person flying squad under the Public Works director, city engineer, and they would do a lot of the basic stuff, including potholes and some of that. So county does street striping, that would also be good. Then the development fees, one of the committee members, you already mentioned it. You were comparing it to Blaine and what you thought. I thought the development fees and charges compared to the staff, the way the law works, your staff to workload, if you have increasing workload, you can increase your staff to provide that service. And one of the things cities can do is they're more flexible in meeting that service demand. Counties are a little less flexible, frankly, why their turnaround times for permits, it's not Whatcom County. It's typical of counties. It's a function of how they work and their structure. But their turnaround times are generally terrible in virtually every county in the state. Cities do it better. Well, why? Because it's a city service. And frankly, cities do city stuff better. But it's not about county bashing. It's about service delivery. And you can recover your cost of service for direct costs. And I'll leave it to the CAI number to say that's what their best guess is. But that number, you can also recover overhead indirect costs to support those planners, engineers, building people. Just using the CAI number, that would generate another $250,000 a year. So now the CAI deficit goes from $1.9 million, gets reduced by $1.3 million down to about $626,000 as the deficit on this very conservative approach that they took. And that's before I get to the second page. And on the second page, I pretty much talk about the criminal justice sales tax. It was listed in the October report. It was not in the total number of sales tax in the December report. I think it was just omitted. I think when they were putting this, it's gone. But there's $382,000, and that's dedicated towards courts, police, jail, that kind of stuff. Franchise fees. They mentioned the cable TV franchise fee, but what about the electric utility or electric company? What about the gas company? You know, those utilities would be multiples of the cable free. And I guess my experience based on University Place and kind of proportionalizing it, I think there's another $250,000 there in revenue. And what else? Oh, and I didn't put a number to any of it, but the state has now changed the laws and you can create tax increment finance districts. And that is a revenue. You wouldn't get it in the early years because you have to set up the district. And then as new growth occurs, a portion of that tax, instead of going where it wouldn't have gone because there was no development without your efforts, but it now would come to the city. But that could be a significant number that if you look at the report, it has an increasing deficit in their assumptions. But these are the kinds of things that would create it to be stable or break even or even positive. Same thing with traffic or impact fees for utilities and for traffic. You can collect impact fees for the school district, for the park district, for the fire district, the library. I mean, impact fees, not only for streets and city functions, but you can actually collect impact fees for the other utilities or other districts. So with the omitted revenues and the adjustments on expenditures, my number comes up, I get 632,000 as a deficit that's offset compared to that's offsetting. I gain another 632,000 to offset the 626,000. Basically, if I were a city manager, and I'm not, I'm happily retired from full-time city management. But if I had to manage Birch Bay with these assumptions, I could make it work. And that's not a technical or an analyst's opinion. That's an opinion of a city manager who's done it. I did it for Newcastle, which is about your size, and I did it for University Place. And I'm sorry, I got a little bit upset because I didn't agree with CAI in the October report, but at least they showed 2 of the 4 that were feasible. And you'd have to make the argument that $30 a month is worth the extra. And I think you could make that sale. I think the community would buy it. But even if you went with I don't want to raise any more tax per household, you can still make it and make it work. So you can see why, I'm sorry, I get a little bit wound up about it because, well, I was also an Army officer in my past, and I feel for these generals and admirals in today's world that are being asked to violate their own codes of ethic and the things that they know are professionally right. And believe it or not, the City Management Association has a code of ethics, and we do believe, that cities are great, and there are some cities that have more resource, and some cities have less, but they all have the same principle involved, which is to give the community a good service for whatever they're paying. And there was a huge difference between even the first 4 scenarios presented in October and this final report. And I don't think it was coincidental that we've all been given less than a couple of days to look at it. I'm sorry.
Are there any questions for Bob?
No.
There's got to be questions.
Pauline has one.
Oh, Pauline, yeah, unmute yourself. If I can get you
Yes,
there you are.
I agree with you, Bob. We knew the assumptions with the police was going to be just skyrocketing. But I think we need to ask the county council that we disagree with the assumptions and we would like the consultants to talk to us.
Well, now you're going to the policy side, and that's, you're the committee. I'm treating you like a city council. My job as the city manager is just to give you what I see and how you deal with the strategy. But my thought is, I don't know that this is the county council's report. I think it's CAI's report. They paid for it. The county paid for it. But I wouldn't bash the county. My impressions are the county's pretty good at being a county, but they're just not going to be a substitute for being a city. And you're paying more money. You're a net revenue generator to Whatcom County. They don't want you to go. They don't want you to be a city because it's going to hurt their revenues.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I just say that our strategy, I think, should be that we don't accept the report, the assumptions. I didn't like them before. I don't like them now. And that we we asked the county council, whoever is in charge of this report, that we get a little bit of time with the consultants to talk to them about this. That we're not accepting it.
I was involved with the Birch group when we submitted a proposal to do this study. And they selected CAI, which I don't really have a problem with. I mean, CAI's, they're okay. But the reason they selected them, what I heard, was that they build these models that are very flexible and they're basically spreadsheets and they can update them, change them. So asking as a committee representing a community to actually have some dialogue with the consultant, I don't think that's inappropriate at all. And if they say no, then that also tells you something.
Right.
But I think we need to have, before this is published, some dialogue, because we already knew the police were going to be 10 police officers. I'm going to download the report. I haven't read it, but we already knew the sheriff was going to do that when they started talking to him. And some of the other assumptions, like some of the, like you said, Parks and Recs, I don't know what they did with that, but we need to look at those things and ask them some questions. So regardless of if you think the report's right or wrong, I think we need to take that opportunity to discuss this with the consultants.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And one point back on police, from what I can tell, the Whatcom County Sheriff's Office is a pretty good operation. They just don't have enough deputies to provide a city level service. And, contracting with the sheriff's office is actually going to be a win for the sheriff. Because my guess is, if you go from 0.6 on duty, on shift, to 2, that's going to be the equivalent of about 11 positions that he doesn't have today. And using city money, he'll get to add 6 more or 11 more deputies to his pool, which is going to make the flexibility for the whole sheriff's office. It's a win-win. And so the sheriff should be one of your biggest supporters.
Well, it's a win-win, except that I think the charges per officer are much greater than what an employee would be.
Oh, I didn't comment on that. And they did in their footnotes indicate that cost per deputy was a fully loaded cost with equipment, so all their supplies, radios, put in the communications. To give you an idea, in Pierce County, the cost per deputy is about $250,000 a year, fully supported. The deputy would love to get that money, but it's not what he gets.
Right.
And in Whatcom County, I just backed the numbers of deputies with the total, and it was about 200,000. So that was the first thing I looked at in the October report. I think that cost per deputy is pretty reasonable.
Okay.
But it's the disagreement I have is over, paying almost $2 million for something where you're getting about a half. You're paying a whole lot more in that road levy than the
Right.
services you're getting. And the only way to change that, frankly, is through cityhood.
Right.
Just to clarify, there's been a couple of numbers thrown out as far as the number of deputies in the assumptions. So that they have a high and low scenario. The high is 14 with 2 lieutenants, so 16 plus a record specialist and a record specialist manager. And then the low count is 7 deputies with 2 lieutenants and then 3
Yeah,
support.
in my opinion, split the baby. Yeah, you would have right down the
You don't
middle.
even need that. Yeah. You don't even need that low.
Is it 2 million total that they're saying for law enforcement?
2.528.
I mean, if we go 1.25 or whatever, what are we, 2 million short? If we
Yeah,
go 1.25, we're so far ahead of where we are now.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I'd like us to respond it, or I'd be happy if we could respond in some manner. We don't have a ton of time,
No,
but it should be a committee decision, obviously.
well, I wondered about that, something either, during their presentation or, they're giving 1 hour to go through the whole thing. To the
Online.
whole public online. The opportunity to ask questions and
It's gonna be
clarify.
very limited.
Yes, you
This is I'm new to all this stuff. We've been here about 2 years, but you guys are all really smart about this, right? And so a guy like me coming in, I'm not saying I'm dumb, but I just looked at that thing when you guys said it was there, and it's 91 pages long, right?
Yeah.
This report
Mhm.
that he did is essential, and it needs to be vetted even tighter, so that as a community we can go, oh, it's 2 pages and this is what they're saying. No one's gonna read that 91 page thing and understand what the hell's going on.
No, but they're gonna look
We
at
can
the
make a
chart.
decision.
They're
But
gonna look at the chart on
But-
page 10 and freak
what
out.
I'm trying to say is, as a committee and as a team, to go out to show the
Oh,
community, it's gotta be this.
Hmm.
It's gotta be an elevator speech, right? Where
Yeah.
it's like, oh, see, all this makes sense now once he went through this 2 page thing. I looked at that 91 and I was like, I don't know, I can't have time to read a 91 page. You know what I'm saying?
oh, me too.
Yeah.
So whether you're against it or for it, it's just, how can we get that really quick and concise, like, this is great. And I don't know you, so it could be completely wrong. It doesn't sound like it is at all, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean?
No, we get
Right.
that, and that's exactly what we're talking about now, and how do you take their assumption and dial it down to
Yeah.
what the community might even want, and
Right.
and then how do you present it? And I don't know if you've looked at our sound bites, but that's what we tried to do, is take
Yeah.
complicated information and put it out there and easy to digest,
Yeah.
but this is a
Good,
whole lot
good.
to do that with.
Well,
Can you,
I was just gonna say, will they not talk to your group? Like, can you call them up and they'll talk to you, or do they just not talk to you?
we had a Zoom meeting with them back in the summertime, June, July,
Yeah.
where they asked, kind of what expectations were and mainly, can you help us promote the survey that we did at the barbecue? And kind of where should we put up flyers to get survey responses, all that kind of stuff. They needed 200, and that was the goal. They ended up getting 6 some. So we did help them in that respect. Since then, when we've asked for information, it's been, well, we'll see if we can fit that in our scope of work. And then it kind of went cold.
Like, they're not communicating now.
No, and I don't know if it's, I used to think it was, well, they want to avoid the perception of us influencing it, but I feel differently now.
Maybe you need to, like with appraisals, the homeowner calls up, ticked off about their value. I go, I can't talk to you. The bank's actually the client because they ordered it. But the bank can give you, authorize me to talk to you. So they authorize me to talk to the person. Maybe we need to go to the county and say, we're getting any communication between them. We have a lot of questions. Could you?
We have questions and concerns about the
If you
assumptions made.
contact them and authorize us to, them to speak to us.
Yeah, my thing is on the whole thing, if you don't do something within the next, before the general meeting, you get nothing.
Right.
You have to do it now. Because if you wait till the 17th, that's when they're talking for an hour and they're dead.
They're hoping to kill it then.
You're dead.
Whoever wants to kill it, yeah.
They'll kill it.
Almost like say, we do not want you to do that meeting. We're not allowed to, or whatever.
That potentially
You know what I mean?
backfire, though, you know what I mean? It could be, look at that, they can't look and things, you know what I mean?
That's true, that's true, but it's,
Technically, we are the client, right?
Yeah.
Washington County's the client.
You need to get authorization from
From the county.
to the, from to the county to them that they're to communicate freely with you guys, because you have a lot of concerns and questions.
Bob, do you have any Bob, do you have any recommendations on the professional way to?
Well, my thought is the horse is out of the barn. You know, if they put it online, a well-meaning community member who's just wanting to find out, is this possible, or are these people, my friends, crazy? I mean, they're not going to read any further than that, whatever the hell page Roman numeral 5 in the summary. And they're just going to see that general fund balance of negative going forward. You can't leave that unrebutted.
Right, right.
And one of the simplest rebuts is, where are the other 3 options that you looked at in October, 2 of which were feasible, one of which really, after some review, was break even. Where were those? And why did you pick the worst case scenario and make it worse? And that alone has got to be a rebut.
Yes.
But there's a lot about the CAI report that's totally valid and a good baseline to work with. But their assumptions are their assumptions. They're not the community's assumptions. They're not what a future city council will do. You know, it's not prescriptive or predictive. It's only a range of feasibilities. And you've got a high range and a low range. And what I recommend is kind of a mid-range. And it's doable. And somehow you've got to get it into simple language that doesn't allow the biases, in my opinion, in the CAI report to sink your ship before you get out of the harbor.
Right, right. So, Bob, I totally agree with you. I think we could at least ask them to, have a meeting with us. And the second thing is to ask them to they could do if they have those computers models set up, they could do 2 or 3 tables and slip them right in there behind the first one, that the high to low. I mean, we should at least ask them that, Good point.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think you've got to ask them. They'll probably say no, but that'll answer a lot of other things.
If they say no, you go back to that gentleman that was talking about the bank. We're not the contractors. We have to go to the city council and ask them permission to talk to these people. We seem to be stuck in this little triangle, and we need to kind of get out of it.
Yeah.
And your point is someone who wanted to talk.
Yorkson.
I was gonna
had a question.
Well, I have a comment. I think I think communication team really need to put a strategy to accompany whatever report needs to come out. We need to figure out how a 91-page information can be distilled to people, the public, right? So that they can really understand and correct and address any assumptions. But I think the communication need to be on top of this before the 17th. One way or the other, we need to be on top of it.
Matt, one last comment. I'll quit butting in, but
Sorry.
I think you got to get past the CAI report, probably some kind of a rebut, request to review with them, treat it as a draft final, and have the committee get involved in a draft. But you got to get past that. And you guys need to play to your strengths, which is start to get out into the community and start having some neighborhood meetings in each community. and say, look, here's what we looked at, here's what we react to, here's what we think. And you start to engage the community and start to talk to them about, 0.6 deputies on duty versus 2. And if you really wanted to go all in, go to 3. Or, if you want to hold it 1 on duty. But the community needs to get engaged now. And you guys, that's, I think, your next step.
I feel like we need this with our basic assumptions.
Mhm.
And that's a net zero change in service.
Yep.
Which includes our 0.6 deputy, or, we call him 1. In part, he's not even 1, right? Because he's not for full time, but and then what we might like, right?
Mhm.
Because this is just not even accurate to either of those things, I think.
I agree with you. I'm just trying to think how we get it done before the 17th. And I think the only way is for the executive to work with Bob Jean to put together like a 1-page letter, 2 at the most, that really succinctly bullets the points that we have concerns about. Again, I haven't read the report and I'm not going to be able to do that. If there are feasible alternatives, to put those numbers in and point out the CII that they have an obligation to report that in the summary. So both the CII assumptions, and then Lisa, what you're saying about that, give us the no change alternative. And if your models are that good and that fast, it shouldn't be a big deal for you to do that. And I would get that done within the next week, so you're not waiting till the 17th.
I think if you wait till the
I mean,
17th, it's over with.
Easy enough to recreate this in an
Oh,
Excel
yeah.
spreadsheet where we adjust the numbers.
Yeah.
And then, but we would need, to write the narrative that.
Are you saying
affected
basically
that.
design the expenditures the way that we would do it, not assuming the way
Yeah,
that
right,
CAI and the
right,
county would tell
yeah,
us to do it?
right. And with some of the adjustments that we know, such as the fact that we are already in a Parks and Rec district that we already pay for, and then just, what we would either, our baseline law enforcement the way we have it now, and then an alternative that might be satisfactory to us. And I think we're right. It isn't even 2. It's 1 most of the time, and maybe 2 on the weekends, or maybe it's 2 in the summer months.
Mhm.
And, people here don't want to be policed to death, but we certainly want a quicker response time.
It'd be nice to have
and
someone here.
Someone
Yeah.
here would be great, yeah.
I guess what I didn't understand, and I guess maybe I'll figure it out as we go forward, is why there's such a high cost of public safety over and above police. Is that contributions to jails and
That was jail and court
and courts?
all that, yeah.
Yeah,
It's big numbers.
Very big.
Yeah, it's court, jail, dispatch.
Legal.
Again, it's back to that fully supported cost.
So I think, again,
Actually,
let's
those
go to the
costs,
point
I think,
6.
are reasonable.
Let's go to the 0.6 number and then look at 1.2. We're going to double the thing, 1.8, we're going to triple it. And try and get them to make that kind of revision in the summary that says this is what it would cost at current levels. And here's what you could add in. I still find a lot of the other numbers very suspect, but
Yeah.
again, it's a point of, unless you can factually show it.
98,000. Bob, are you sure you don't want to come out of retirement?
I was gonna say where I highlighted that.
I highlighted that one too.
98,200 for city manager. What are they, where is that? number?
That's the
It includes
entire
other
office.
employees,
That's all,
clerk, and, yeah.
Yeah.
But it is a big number.
Well, then the city council's 121, so it's like.
But there
There's a cost there.
volunteers.
One of the duties of the chair as decided in December of 2023 is to serve as a primary liaison with the County State and Boundary Review Board. I'm happy to work with Bob and Chuck and Jonathan and whoever else would want to try to put something together before Wednesday of next week. But I think it would be best if we had kind of a rough tone and outline approved via motion. I feel better about that. And if you like it to be run by you before it's delivered, we can do that as well. I'm happy to work with whomever has the time and the interest, or, you know, yeah.
I'd like to serve on that.
But I do think we need to compensate Bob at some point too, because he's done
Yeah,
a lot for us. And I know we can't pay him what he deserves, but something would be fair. So
I would make a motion that we authorize the executive, and they can bring in whoever else they want to craft the response to the planning division. It's not a county council issue, it's county staff. I'm not sure it goes all the way up to the executive yet, but it could do that. But on the lines of what Bob has identified, on the lines of what Lisa has suggested of, you know, comparable services that we get right now, what would the cost of those be? And presumably it wouldn't change a lot in the revenue side. I do think it needs to be done very quickly. So even by Tuesday of next week, so that they're aware.
Yeah.
And if they want to maybe postpone their big public meeting, knowing what kind of comments are going to come back. And I would further suggest that we set aside an honorarium of $500,000 for Bob's advice to deal with the report before it comes out.
8,000.
what was the amount?
He said 500,000. We don't have.
No.
500,000.
You know, the city manager said 700. I think Bob is at least 500. I said 502,000.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
You were at 500,000.
Pretty sure I said that.
502 or something.
Well, if you were talking about an honorarium of 500,000, I could probably come out of retirement for that. But
Yeah.
honestly,
We'd
you know,
we'd be in the
plain,
in the jail trying to figure out where we're gonna get it from.
yeah, having the chair work with staff and getting some feedback, and having CAI give us maybe 3 or 4 options, maybe do all the other variables, make them constant, come to an agreement, make them constant, and then you could do it based on levels of police service. You know, anywhere from, you know, the current 0.6 to 1.2 to what I think you probably need is around 2 officers, or even up to 3. You know, those would be just real quick on a Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I think you also, I haven't read the report, but I think based on what you were saying, Bob, about Parks and Recs, we have to take that out. There are other assumptions that should be in there, the big ones.
Yep. So how soon, Pauline, could you look through it and shoot an email with any suggestions?
Yeah, I'll look through it also. Yeah.
You had an amendment to his motion?
Yes.
For 1,000
Yes.
compensation for this and previous?
Yeah.
Do we get a second on that? Or how do we?
Yeah, you need to say.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Yep.
Any discussion on that?
How do we give money to this fund? Like, if
You
I
just-
wanted to right now, how would I do it?
You should give me a cold hard cash.
She's got a
We
QR
got
code.
QR code. We got cash.
Hey,
However
let's
you'd like
stick to the motion.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, any discussion of the amendment? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Disdain?
Good.
All right, now, is there a second to his motion? Original motion?
I seconded and then.
Oh,
offered
and
amendment.
okay. So any further discussion of the game plan or trying to get something to them along the lines of what we discussed by Tuesday and compensating Bob?
Yeah.
Any further questions or comments?
I just want to be in the loop.
Okay,
Well, the
absolutely.
emails could go to
Steering committee.
everybody, but it's tough to.
We'll just do all communication with the BBIA. steering
The
committee.
motion was that it's up to the executive to
Okay.
determine who would
That's right.
help work on it because of the shortness of time that we've got to make. So don't feel dispirited if they don't have time to get it out. It's more important that it gets out early next
Yes.
week. Then we have a great
Personally,
sense.
I'm happy to involve anybody.
Yeah.
But okay.
But
So
it's up to you.
along the same lines, though, I mean, we need to get them something that they can look at and that we can discuss with them. But I guess maybe even tomorrow. I mean, shouldn't there be a phone call alerting them that this is coming? I mean,
Yeah, I can say we're
we need.
rushing a response to this because we
Yeah.
have something.
Yeah, and maybe even set up a tentative meeting if they're willing. I mean, they may not be willing, as everybody's pointed out, but if they are willing, set up a meeting for Wednesday or something like that, so that they can do that. But regardless, I think we need to tell them that something's coming.
Yeah. So I think they can let the executive, let's vote on the motion and get it in process, and then you can throw other
All right. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, no, the motion carries. Thank you. I think that it's pretty amazing in 87 minutes we were able to have that level of conversation and some sort of an action plan come out of it. So good job.
And thank you, Bob. This is excellent.
thank you.
This
Yeah.
really helped.
Great work.
Yeah,
Thank
this
you
is a
very
great
much.
report.
Matt, I got a question.
Yeah.
Is somebody gonna send an email or call whoever at the county and say, we would really like to speak with CMI or whatever the name is?
CAI.
Because we
That's what he
read
just said.
the study, and there's things in there that
Don't understand.
assumptions they made that don't represent
Yeah.
what we want in our community,
That's what we
What-
just
yeah,
voted
yeah.
on.
That's what
We
you
gotta
just
finish.
put it
I
on
mean, but are you gonna do it tomorrow morning?
Yeah.
You're gonna wait till Wednesday?
No.
tomorrow.
Okay, good.
No, I'm gonna email the planner at Planning and Development Services, who's the project manager of this.
Yeah.
And then I have a con with both Jed at the executive's office plus, some of these people in this, but we've got concerns. All the people that basically we've interfaced with to make this happen, our county council members.
Yep.
Say, we have some concerns about the assumptions made in this. They're, basically I'll summarize what we discussed. I'll probably have to re-listen to the meeting, but to make sure I'm accurate to our discussion.
Because if they ignore you or stonewall you or something, then that's worth
That's
something.
something.
That's worth something coming up that next meeting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Good
All right.
point. Yeah.
Any closing thoughts from anyone?
Who actually, when the report actually is released, who releases the report? Does it come from the county because they're the
Yeah.
client, or does it come from CAI?
It
Comes from the county,
CAI to the county will post it on the
Right.
website,
And
and
the county,
the
just-
county council was the client who paid the money for it, and they had planning and development services as the project manager, and Amy
Right.
Keenan is the point
Yeah, yeah,
person, and
yeah.
yada, yada, so.
it's just that if the county is the one responsible for getting it out there, now they will likely say no, but I'm just gonna throw this out. We could write a rebuttal and ask them when they publish the tome that we're in the appendix as a rebuttal.
No reason why you can't ask.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. It's just like if they just take the report, I mean, if CAI is the one who gets it out there, but if the county owns the report and they decide what goes out, they could post our comments together with the report if they're willing to do that.
They both
Yeah.
did email blasts and press releases with regards to the meeting next week. They have not done that for the report as of yet.
Right.
The draft got published on the website, which we all saw yesterday, but they have not publicized it yet that I've seen. And I'm on all the blasts for that, so.
Yeah. The only reason I saw this last night is I've been obsessively refreshing the county's website.
Yeah.
This whole thing, it's not like they send us information and then we've been sitting on it.
Yeah.
It's all just on the Birch Bay Incorporation feasibility portion of the Whatcom County website. We don't get notifications that the stuff's published. We just have to check frequently. So that's what happened yesterday. Saw this pop up and went, well.
We're the subject of the report, not the client.
So, my only other, thing for us to discuss is with regards to, committees going forward. And I would suggest that that can wait, because I think things are gonna be a little bit fluid here over the next few weeks and months, and that, we may not need particular committees, but rather people that are assigned to do some of those jobs at the moment until we make
Yeah,
such a decision, at which time at the next meeting, whether we decide we know enough to follow through with our bylaws and become an advocacy or not, what our steps are, do we dissolve, whatever. So
Yeah,
I guess I would suggest that we don't need to discuss committee
Yeah.
appointments at this time.
that was
Other than
the
executive
entire
committee, so.
plan we had for this meeting. It was discussed at the executive committee a few weeks ago was, well, let's talk about, what changes to make to the group and we need this or that and everything. And then it all kind of got turned upside down when we had the study published. So, but that over the holidays here, that is something to think about is if we're going to be moving forward or not, how do we want to do it? How much work do we want to do? How much time do we have? How can we accomplish that? How many meetings do we want to go to? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I do think that we need to set the schedule for the next steering committee meeting.
Yes, that's the
That
other,
came out a little
the other,
bit
right.
late this time.
I was asked by the chair of the planning commission to try to pick another day of the week than Thursday. Thursdays are convenient for Jonathan, who travels the furthest to come to these meetings. Thoughts? I guess we don't have to pick the schedule for the whole next year, but would we like to do something earlier in January?
You're saying other than a Thursday?
I'm saying we should pick our date for the January meeting, but we don't need to make a schedule for all of 2026 today.
No, that's, yeah, that makes sense. I just thinking about other things that are gonna be in front of council and planning commission and things, that would be, those are the other things that I think some of us thinking further, and what's good for Birch Bay, that would be the other things to consider. But the second Thursday versus the third, if we know that, that's what I'm trying to get to right now.
That's the 8th.
The meeting schedule.
Yeah.
The third Thursday would only be the 15th. We wanted to stick with that for one. And I'm looking at the county's calendar right now.
Are you, okay, that's what I'm
There's
trying to
no county council meetings
They're Tuesdays usually, right?
on that. BBCAC. Dorley, do you know when they're meeting in January?
No.
Second and fourth Thursdays are the
Planning.
normal planning commission meetings. They've been having a lot of special ones because of the comp plan update, so that would put us back to the third one, which is, like you're saying, the 15th.
Does the 15th conflict with anybody's?
No, I think that's okay. So far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Thursday, January 15th.
Presumably here, and I see that I'm supposed to be the one. I read that today in the,
It's amazing what we were all committed to do and haven't done.
and Matt's been doing the lion's share of it, for which
Yeah.
we're all
I
grateful.
was gonna nominate him for secretary. Does all my
I
work.
don't like taking minutes. All right,
All
if
that.
that's that, it's 7:34. I think we've got a good plan.
Okay, move to adjourn.
All right, a second.
The second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much, Paul, for coming.
Aye.
Plans to talk to you.
Each 5 look like.
We've got boxes.
Matt, I'll call you tomorrow morning
Sounds like a plan.
Thank
or
you.
text.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, you should work on it. What I'm saying.